Okay, once you heated up your mold, you're going to place it into the stand. The stand consists of 2 acrylic plates, 8 bolts, and 8 wing nuts. This is a gravity mold, which means that you're pouring a liquid metal into it, and the gravity works to carry it downward. The bolts and the wing nuts are to apply even pressure on the mold. The important thing to notice about the 2 acrylic plates is that these blue dots, blue tags, should be in the lower left-hand corner in order for the 8 drill holes to line up properly. Probably it's better to see it like this. If this is flipped over, the 8 drill holes won't line up properly. Be slightly off, and that might be a problem when inserting the bolts into the drill holes here. So remember to get the proper orientation, and also the 4 bottom drill holes are closer together than the top 4. These bottom 4 are to keep pressure on the bottom part of the spoon, the bowl of the spoon here. So when you go to assemble the plates, you're going to take the spoon mold. Here's the bottom portion, here's the top. This is the top half. You want this facing outward because you have more visibility here. When you go to insert the syringe, you place it where it's flush on the bottom part of the plate here. You're going to have some slight overlap here. That's for placing the syringe in. You take the other acrylic plate, you line it up, and then you put your bolts in. Now the technique is just to, when you put your bolts in, just to spin the wing nuts in place, and then when you get them all, the bolts and wing nuts in place, you want to apply pressure on the tip of the flathead part of the bolt, and when you go to tighten up the wing nut, when you get the first slight resistance, that's as far as you need to turn it, and then you want to do it on the bottom here and just stagger it a little bit from one bolt to another. I'm turning this wing nut. You can loosen it up. Turn this wing nut, and just a slight, maybe a quarter of a turn. When I feel resistance, that's as far as you need to tighten it. And that's on each one of them. Doesn't take much to tighten it. The overall technique here is not to over tighten it and not to under tighten it. Because if you over tighten it, the spoon will form, and then you'll have a hole in the spoon. That's because these 4 bottom bolts have been tightened too tight, and it's creating a resistance when the gallium fills the cavity. So if you get a spoon that has a hole in the center, that's because these bolts have been placed too tight. Now, if you get where the gallium is spraying outward, that's where the bolts aren't tight enough. They're too loose. You might get a little spraying spilling, outward spilling of the gallium, that's because the bolts aren't tightened enough. So if you see that, you know what the problem is. Now, if you get gallium where some gallium comes down, then there's a spot, and the gallium forms here and goes down. These top bolts are too tight, so it's restricting the flow of the gallium. So when you actually have the proper alignment, the proper turn of the wing nuts, which once again, as I said earlier, you can untighten it, then tighten it up to where it stops, and then just feel that first resistance and give about a quarter turn. That should be the proper degree of tightness to hold the plates in place. Once again, put your finger, if the bolt moves, put your finger on it, and then it'll stop, and then you want to turn it to where you get a little resistance, and that should be the proper degree of tightness on each one of these bolts. Now when you do that properly, your gallium will flow, straight down. You'll see it flowing straight down, and then it will fill and come back up. Of course, all this fills up because it has the proper pressure on it, and you have the proper flow through. Once again, the trick is not to have it too loose or too tight. And should you run into a problem, you never want to open up the mold, because you're going to have a complete mess. So the best thing to do is put it in the cooler or the freezer, and within 10 minutes, then you can take it apart and clean it back up. But when you're casting your gallium into the mold, in order to be successful, you have to learn from your trial and error mistakes. But once again, if you tighten the wing nuts up properly, you shouldn't have a problem. But if you do, look at the situation and determine where you went wrong. And in the next video, I'm going to actually pour the gallium into the mold. Thank you.